turned into like a flying fish, turned into like a
Yeah,
flying fish hat over here, and then this one
actually,
over
the
here.
two before it too, like
Yeah.
all, that whole row is all cool.
Now, remember when you said there was a lot going on in the background of this image with the mustache? That's actually what generated all of this really cool coloring in those two that you were talking about. Like all that little explosion of purple and yellow and orange in the back, that all came from that little swirl that Ange had going on in that other image. So that really is a great feedstock for getting that kind of like, I mean, it looks like fire in the distance, but like purple and blue and
Now that's really
everything.
cool that you observed that, because as you bring your own artist out,
Mm-hmm.
you can prepare your images. A little
Mm-hmm.
Photoshop work, a little
Mm-hmm.
swirling. You can make initial images knowing that the AI does that to that. And this
Exactly.
is where you become an artist again.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing all the painting and smearing, but you're preparing it for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is art.
It's the artist eye. You know, you have to be thinking of what it's going to look like in the future and prepare for that. And you're absolutely right. Different ways, like seeing how it reacts to things, like especially the way that it made that hair out of vines. That would be a really easy shortcut, for example, where I could say, give me a face of whoever with
You
vines
want to
for
make a
hair.
Godiva
Yeah, and
or,
then you could
or
just
Rapunzel.
change it. Rapunzel, yeah, just like that.
Yeah.
Over here we had the blue Rapunzels and a pair of them. They had two of them. But it's just really cool the way that feeding it an image, and it depends whether you feed it the image as a starting point or an ending point makes a difference. Like all of these were starting from that image of Ange, that top left image. I said start there and then try to put it in the style of John Steffens, and that's why it's having trouble with it because it has trouble with the faces or what have you. You could also tell it instead to make that the target image. So that's the next thing I'm going to try.
And,
Is
and
say
I
start
guess
from a
that would
blank sheet and
depend
go. Mhm.
if the artist that you're trying to duplicate, if they weren't a big face artist,
Right, exactly.
I would
And same thing with
imagine that
same
AI
thing with
would
the
have a
libraries.
tougher time.
And the AI, there's actually a separate library for faces specifically. So if you are doing face work, like probably the question I don't know yet is whether you would want to do that first to get the scene to have a real face in it and then send it to the AI, or have the AI do what it was doing, and then when you feed it to the face AI, then it tries to generate an actual face based on those little elements that are there. I'll have to
Well,
mess with that a little.
you're really going to learn it by experience.
Yeah. Oh, Thomas Kincaid was another one where that was the one that was in the
Yeah.
actual video. The guy mentioned Thomas Kincaid, and just he was saying anything that you do, just put buy Thomas Kincaid or buy Thomas Kincaid in Unreal Engine is another way to do it because you can give it keywords like that to give it a certain look. But for this one, I told it give me a futuristic orchestra
Yeah,
under
he's
Cygnus
like the
X1.
Ansel Adam of sci-fi.
Yeah, and this last one that came up, the image on the right, is pretty cool. I mean, it's basically it's definitely an orchestra. It's definitely got these futuristic looking instruments in the front in the foreground. There's like a couple things that it's like a console and some other stuff to it, but it just it generated that out of nothing, and I was just really happy with the way it came out there. And I would continue to feed that to the AI. All those purple or pink clouds in the bottom, that would probably all continue to define out into the scene if I let the AI continue chewing on it, because it has a really good direction at that point. Like it knows where it's going with that image. So I think that's going to come out really well. But again, these are just starting ideas. These first two, it was just I said something like just mentioned Cygnus X1 and just said figuring that led it to its own devices to show me a space scene, and so we got rockets going around and spaceships.
Do you have the video that you watched that introduced you to all this?
Yes, I do. I'll have to. I'm going to get that link before we finish the show. I'll definitely have that link, so I'll catch that later because that would be the best place to start for any of this stuff. And I will need to look for it though over there. So
And he covers like the web page that you go to, and
yep.
I mean, fortunately, like you said, it's very easy to get into. They don't
Mm-hmm.
make you set up a bunch of things on your computer. You're running it
Mm-hmm.
through the cloud.
Yep.
If you download those codes, you're basically bringing them from other libraries and importing them.
Yep. Now they do mention that when he does the video, he does mention that this the free version that you're going to go do. You sometimes won't get connected to the GPUs because again, the GPUs are going to be prioritized for the people who are actually paying for a membership. So if you don't, then and again, I'm not sponsoring them. I have no affiliation with them. I just I saw it and I immediately saw the benefit of this, and I saw the results that I started getting, and I said I'm definitely in on this,
I
100%. Like
I
double down on
I
it.
know you're a fractal guy.
I'm a
Like
fractal guy, yes.
this is fractals at the next level where
And And that's going to be interesting feeding fractals into this because I can take
Yes.
just a fractal of whatever I want, feed it into this, and now tell it whatever scene I thought about when I saw that fractal, and I can say, hey, this one looks like a prairie scene with buffalo roaming or whatever, and the AI can take that fractal, and actually he does one of those, not with a fractal specifically, but he goes with one of the black and white optical illusions. It's like one of the illusions that makes it look like everything is kind of spinning or warping because it's
Symmetrical. Yeah.
all diagonal lines and stuff. And he fed that as the starter image, and then whatever he told it to do after that had that baked in already. So I could really get like an MC Escher checkerboard kind of patterning if I started with like a checkerboard pattern as a starting image and then told it frogs and turtles and whatever. It would fit it into that as a framework or as a template. So you can
Yeah.
feed it stuff like that, and that's
I
the kind of stuff
think
that I could do very easily. In
optical illusion
yes,
images as
yes,
initial, those
is a great
videos
idea.
that you can render are
Mm-hmm.
going to be real interesting because
Yeah,
optical illusions almost look like they're moving on their
already.
own.
Yep.
When you add this to it, it's like, whoa, it's alive.
And we can see how it can like wrap around itself. But like this fantasy starscape one in the middle, for example, that's one of the ones that ran for the longest. So it had the most detail, but it didn't change a lot from early on to later on, just because there wasn't much for it to really change. Like I didn't give it a very specific target. I just said something like fantasy starscape or whatever. So it was very wide open to do whatever it wanted. And the AI just kept refining and refining. But I love the fact that you've got like fire in the top and in the bottom left, and you got the purples of like nebulas in the middle, and just the colors are just fantastic. It almost looks like a geode, like when you crack a geode open and it's got like all those
Yes.
colors inside. Like that's kind of what
Especially
these
the one
look
on the
like,
top right.
especially
Yeah.
the one on the top right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like one of those. It's very cool. But again, I literally only started using this yesterday or the day before, so I've generated all of this in the last 2 days essentially, just from keywords and from some ideas, and just trying to go in and make some changes and just try to see what things look like. And I'm gonna have a blast with this. I can tell already. And again, taking this to the next level would be taking these images, blow them up to the larger size, and then bring them into something like Photoshop and start using them as an element there, whether it's a background or whether I want to edit parts of it or whether I want to zoom in on parts and refeed those in. Like maybe on this epic space battle, I really like what's going on in the right center of the screen with that purple and orange there. I could just take that and focus on that and feed it back in.
I could see graphic artists also using this as te- to build textures
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's
because like,
super super fast.
yeah, and some of these are beautiful textures that if you incorporate them into tileable 3D, if you design it properly, you should be able to actually make it so it's tileable by the time it's done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because that in itself is an art form.
Yeah, definitely. Getting those
Getting
patterns
it
to
to
repeat just
continue,
right.
yeah, getting it to continue on all four sides is not as easy as people think.
Mm-hmm. It is a challenge. Just saving
And
this
I,
one
I
down
wouldn't be
to some minutes.
surprised if they incorporate that kind of functionality into it to say, like, generate this image and little tileable checkbox that says make it connect at the edges so that it can seamlessly tile across a web page or a skin.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to stop this one for now. How about this? What about comic book art? What would be somebody for comic book art?
George Perez. Uh,
Curious how it would respond to that. Not with a with initial image, but maybe just catchphrase or what have you. So George Perez, you said. And what would you think would be a good scene?
well, I liked his Wonder Woman stuff.
Okay.
Amazons.
There we go. Amazons by George Perez. How about Amazons in training? So we get that little activity, right? Let's see if that does well. No text to start, no text to end, and we're using the wiki art. And we say go. And we say it again. And it goes. And we'll see how fast it goes from, again, just that white screen that it starts with, because it basically just starts from generating zeros and ones. Everything is all just like, looks like a white painted sheet,
And
like
if
that.
this AI is sucking up comic book artists, oh my God, there's so many
Well, that's
that.
the thing is it should be sucking up all of wiki. I mean, not all of, but I mean they made this from wiki art in this one in particular. The other one would have been the ImageNet. So one was the ImageNet F16 16384, and the other is the WikiArt. So this is using the WikiArt for this one in particular. And we're at 32, so we're already most of the way there. At 50 is when we get our first. And again, if we wanted to, that's what we'll do another time, is to set that iteration limit lower so that we actually see like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and you'll see much more drastic changes. But then you're also downloading an image every 10 seconds or whatever. Oh, yeah. It knows something.
That actually almost looks like one of his covers.
Mm-hmm. And you can see elements there. There's definitely going to be some Amazons there. There are definitely some weapons there. Definitely some grass.
It's kind of cool. It's almost like it's half stained glass, half caveman
Yeah, yeah.
sculpture.
It's a good interpretation of the style. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. And again, to see the it's 50 seconds or so between each one. At this point, it's doing one iteration every 1.19 seconds. So we're already at 99. Here's 100.
And
So
they
that's 10
definitely
seconds.
have some Amazons in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd
Yes, they do.
really like to take a look at this code. I,
Yep.
I
And that's the
do
thing is the code
understand
is already up.
Python.
Yep.
Yeah, Python's not a hard language. Oh wow, look at it as it really starts to sharpen up.
Mm-hmm. But on each one of these steps, they have the show code button, so they literally show you every step of the code, every step of the way. So it's all right there for you, which is awesome. Now, me, I'm just getting into Python, so I'm just starting out. So I'll have, it'll take me longer to really wrap my head around all of it. But seeing what I'm seeing already, it's extremely powerful and just awesome and very easy to work with in this particular instance.
And
Again, I set up the sheet.
half the code is interpretive, and it's grabbing something and it's plucking information, and the other half is how it splatters it back on the wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in some of them, watching them actually generate like that whole background where you see the grass and buildings and things like that. With some of them, you actually see it peel back, kind of like in the Matrix, where like it comes off like peeling wallpaper almost. Like the whole back of the scene comes off, and something else comes like breaking through, or like splits the scene open and comes out from behind it. It's pretty cool the way that if the AI goes down that road, it decides, oh, we're gonna go this way now. Like it takes a sharp turn, and all of a sudden you're going that way. But yeah, as you can see, this is just in 2-3 minutes, whatever. We're already we're at iteration 200, so this would be about 4 minutes in, and we're already getting distinguishable features of people with swords and doing stuff. That's very cool.
Oh, I see Amazon's fighting like already.
Yep. And of course, since we said Amazon, it's thinking lots of forests, so I see lots of trees and lots of greenery all around. It's gonna be a cool scene. But
So
that's exactly it.
at least it didn't confuse it with shopping.
Yeah, exactly. Amazon, exactly. But that's where again the AI, it knows, it's looking at the art database essentially that it's pulling from. And as you said, like if you're knowledgeable about it and 100 different artists, you could come up with 100 different styles for any one given scene. You could see this scene and say, I like what it is, but I think it would be better in the style of so and so. You could then
Have you
take versus
tried
the scene.
multiple styles at the same time? Can you
That
say
you
as
can.
this artist by this artist?
You can, and you can even just put those as keywords. I could even just say Van Gogh, Picasso, Monet, whatever. Put them in as just, doesn't have to be by or as. You can put it wants pipes as separators if you're going to use if you're not going to do it as a phrase. For me, I just did it as if I was making the title of the image, like the wasteland by so and so is how the picture would be titled. So I figured going in that format would be helpful for the AI,
Oh,
but I don't
pipes
think it cares
totally.
though.
Pipes, I'm very natural. Like
Yeah.
that's the old school way of separating your chunks.
Yep.
Even Google
hmm
technically kind of works that way.
Yep. In
Oh,
this case, we're not
I'm
seeing.
definitely seeing an Amazon coming down, like ready to.
hmm Like over here, we got a chop happening. Yep. And that's the thing, is like I could let this run for hours and hours and hours, and it'll continue to get better and better and better, or different each time we do it. But what I
Yeah, I
started
bet
doing
you
is,
that like brain looking area, all
mhm,
the brain texture area,
yeah,
is just going to get more and more organic after
hmm
thousands and thousands of renders.
yep. And we see the losses are down to 61.9% at this point, which again, that's not like a magic number, but as that number goes down, that's the AI saying I'm getting more confident about what I'm making, or more confident in more pixels. And if the
Now,
number
why do
starts
they
going up,
show loss and losses? Is
that's a good
loss
question.
like the current? and
I'm not
losses
clear on
is.
that, and it's actually very different because on when Jason was working
Oh,
on it, his first number loss was like 1.5, and for losses he had three numbers separated by commas. So I'm not 100% clear on what's going on with those, but it seems to be that the trend would be that first number that you're looking at, that loss number. You want that going down, and ideally down towards zero point 0.5 or below, and then the scene starts to get much more integrated or much more cohesive. Where sometimes, like I was saying, I would let it run for an hour or whatever, and it just kept kind of vacillating back and forth. Like it starts tweaking this a little bit, and then it tweaks it back because the AI is making a decision and says this will make it more like that, and then it says no, maybe it'll be more this way, and so it's kind of indecisive, and it's flip flopping, shall we say?
it's starting to turn some of those brains into coconuts or like tree elements.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely, definitely some tree elements.
mountain texture.
Almost looks like fire in the bottom left, or explosions, and there's like purple light or blue lightning coming from somewhere. Like
Yeah,
almost looks like
you're
someone's shooting
you're
lightning.
seeing things that were undefined in the early iterations starting to actually become part of the scenery.
Exactly. And what I started doing is because again I could take these, I could run this for hours and let it continue. What I also started doing is when I get to a point like this, I say, okay, that's enough of a source image or enough of a start. So that was a 5 minute start for that image. I could take that, save it, and I can always plug it back in, feed it the same results or feed it the same parameters, and it'll run, again and continue from where it left off essentially. But it would be a different run, but it would essentially do the same thing going forward. But I could do more scenes that way. I could do one of these every 5 minutes
Have
and
you
have a
tried
scene
running
started.
multiple ones at the same time? I'm sure
That
you have.
I actually didn't because I
You
didn't want to
haven't?
try that, but Jason did. So Jason tried that for us.
Of
Where
course he would.
once he was
He
on one,
has
he
a
opened another
thousand
tab, and then
tabs.
exactly. So he tried it in a second tab, and it was like not so much. But yeah, so I think it's just one tab that you're running at the time, but not a big deal.
Well, I'm curious if you have multiple scenes rendering, you're going to use a little bit of your CPU.
At this time, like when I was looking at it, it was no more than if I was just looking at a static web page. Honestly, it was my RAM usage was at like 31%,
Well,
and
that
CPU was
that
just almost
RAM and disk
non-existent.
that you see in the top right corner, that's
Yep,
representative of what it's
yep.
using on yours.
It says it's a Python 3 Google Compute Engine
Yeah,
backend, and it's
three and a
three and a
half gigs.
yep 3.5 gigs, 25 gigs of disk. So
So, if you had two or three of these going, same workload, you'd be sucking up about 10, 11 gigs of your RAM.
mm-hmm. Yep. But again, these aren't running on our RAM; these are running on their end. So if we had the Python code here, you're saying yes, yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
that's not local
That's not local. This
resource.
is the compute engine on their end. This is what I'm
Gotcha.
connecting to. And sometimes it'll disconnect you if you're idle or what have you. And when you reconnect, you'll get a different one. You have to re-go through the steps to bring the files back into this session.
Well, if you go to look at your resource manager,
Mm-hmm.
how much is this Chrome saying it's using for RAM?
I do have a bunch of Chrome windows open right now. Not as bad as Jason, of course, but I do have more than a couple. But I should still be pretty good.
Yeah,
Right
and you
now,
should be able to isolate this Chrome session in your resource.
I'm only at 62% total, so I mean, I'm not even worried about it. But again, I have so many Google Chrome windows right now that I wouldn't be able to isolate which is which easily. But again, when I looked at it, I saw that there was really no overhead coming into my machine. All of the hard work is being done on the server end, and all we're doing here is getting a new image populating 500 by 500 every minute or so. So as fast as your machine can handle that, and that seems to be like no issue at all.
Oh, and it's Ange approved. It's wicked cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is
And
Ange.
what I wanted to do is actually stop this one because you did ask about the merging of two different artist styles, and I think that's a very good test. So let's do that. Stop this guy.
If
I
you
gotta
really
save that one
wanted to get
first.
creative, you'd take this artist and that artist and say, make them have a baby with this artist.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We can mix two, we can mix three, but again, the trick comes to if you start confusing the AI, like if the AI gets,
I
you know,
would want to.
yeah, but
In
sometimes that
this in
causes
this early
different results.
generation of AI,
Mm-hmm.
I would want to confuse it
Yep,
just to create the next generation.
just to see how it handled it.
That's how AI gets better.
Yep. And we said this was Amazon's in training, right? All right, so that was that one. Very cool.
You're
Now
gonna fill up your hard drive
these are
with a
very small.
lot of images.
These are 500 kilobytes each. Very tiny. I can have tons and tons of them, and I'm not costing any space. So that's good.
Well, wait till you render
The large ones,
hundreds of thousands.
yeah. That is a different story, but that's hey, that makes it worth it to get the 8 terabyte Plex server going, right? All right, so who should we mix together? Mashup time. We got some artists. We'll go for a theme afterwards, right? So let's see. Do we want to keep it as a comic style and mix a comic style with like a classic style, something like that, like George Perez and a classic artist?
Yeah, make Perez into a Van Gogh.
There you go, Perez and Vincent Van Gogh. And what should the scene be then? Now Van Gogh would have no idea what superheroes are, but that doesn't matter because the AI does.
Super Friends.
How about that? Super Friends. No idea. See what they say about that. We say, okay, run that cell. And they say, sure, and generate. Now, again, this is once every 50, so it'll still be about a minute in between each one.
Now the seeds are set to -1. What are the seeds?
I think -1 tells it to pick a seed. So right here, it's using seed in this huge number. So -1 is, I think, telling it to just, like you can pick a specific seed. So I could say seed on this number if I want, and that way I could always get that same result.
Starting point.
Same starting point, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That would be where that would be. And here the loss is at 1.02, so anything over 1, and it's saying, oh, this is nothing like what you were looking for. So it's going to start getting better and training itself. That's what it's trying to do. Its training is to get that loss number to come down. But we don't know what it thinks the Super Friends should look like, or what George Perez and Vincent Van Gogh would do if they were working together. But we shall find out. There's only one way to do it.
Actually, we should have used the Hanna-Barbera artists.
Oh, nice. There we go.
Which I think was Hanna or Barbera. It was one of them was the artist.
Yeah. Very cool. We've got capes. We've got blue. We've definitely got superhero-looking stuff happening here.
But that does kind of look, yeah.
Just in the first iteration. And like you said, the brain stuff from before is still just kind of that abstract background. But now it's different, though, because now we're looking at what the background would look like if it was a Van Gogh and what the background would look like if it was a Perez. So they're both fighting or working together, whichever way you'd want to look at it.
It's almost like a city map at this point.
Yeah. Absolutely. Bodies of water, sure. Some more definition now, yeah, definitely.
Again, with the Van Goghs, it gets into the like swirlies and
that's where it'll be interesting to see how they merge together. Like, or if we could even say at one point, like 80% Van Gogh, 20% Perez, or 80% Perez and 20% Van Gogh. Like, that would be pretty cool.
I actually see like 8 or 9 different characters already.
They're super and they're friends.
Batman's hiding in the bottom left.
I see him.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if this like purple stuff in the middle with the flesh color below it, that's got to be like thighs of somebody.
Well, there's an old plastic man in the middle.
There you go.
And he's got a purple suit.
There you go. Yep. We're at 150 at this point. There's a yellow thing down the bottom. Looks like a sun. I don't know what that is, though. That's probably undefined at this stage. But we shall see. Now, they do have, as a general note, they do have AIs like this that are doing things with music as well. And that's one that we're definitely going to be touching on as well.
Yes.
That's one that I haven't gotten as far into yet, so I'm going to have to. But that was part of the point of this, was as I saw this AI art stuff and I started getting into it, I'm like, wait, if they can do that with AI art, there's no reason you can't do the same principle but do it with music and say this
and Jason teased us the other night after we looked at this, like, music AI reminded me of the song starter that you were showing us a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. With the little nuggets of MIDI, sure.
Gave you nice starting points. Mm-hmm. You picked, some keywords and some musicians to derive from, mm-hmm. styles, mm-hmm. and it created some amazing results.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Again, I don't think it's going to deter people from making music, just like I don't think this is going to deter people from making art. Mm-hmm. I think it's just going to change the way they make it.
Exactly. It's a different tool. And that's the thing, is there will be some people who are very entrenched in using their paints and their canvas and this and that, who don't want anything to do with the digital side, and I get that. I mean, you see that in the music industry.
Totally get it.
I mean, totally get it. And there's
if you can paint it, bless you. You are we're not worthy if you can paint it.
But the fact that we have now the ability to access some of these things is very cool, because a lot of people have a lot of creative ideas and just not a good way to get it out. Whether it's physical art or whether it's painting or whether it's music, just figure out how to get it out. I mean, that's the important thing. Is even if you just have to get it out by yourself, to yourself, in a notebook or whatever, just because then you get it down and you start getting better at it, and then you'll start wanting to share it with other people, and it's just one of those things that's, I think, a good idea.
In a lot of ways, this actually extends the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Even a good idea can explode into all sorts of different directions when you add AI like this.
Exactly. And that's why, again, it's not that AI is the answer, but it's just that AI is such an interesting tool in this
It should
respect
be a
to use it.
compliment.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants it to be the answer doesn't really want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who wants this to complement is going to go make an initial picture and then
Mm-hmm.
feed it through the AI to see where it goes.
Yep. And it's great for studying the different styles of the different artists too, because I mean, you could take, again, your own picture, your own image, and put it in the style of Monet, or a scene in your house, even if it's just whatever. Take a picture with your phone and then feed that in, and use that and put that in the style of whatever. Because again, with the faces, it has difficulty. So even the Super Friends here, I'm expecting to have issues with the Super Friend faces, but we can already see that
It's
they're getting
actually,
the elements.
it
It's
almost
doing.
is putting a few. I think I see Wonder Woman.
Yeah, yeah,
Batman changed. He's no longer Batman,
yeah.
but
But
I
again,
now see Wonder Woman.
they're trying to do certain things. But again, with the faces, I think a lot of these are going to have issues with the faces. But also, you can see the road or the city map stuff in the background is getting much more of a Van Gogh feel at the top there.
Oh,
Like,
totally, yeah. This is where they're getting from his style, like those little swirlies and loopies and things that he liked to do.
no, yep.
Matter of fact, there is one comic book artist. Oh, I can't believe I'm brain farting on it, but his big shtick was dots. Like he liked to make dots to,
Yeah, pointillism. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and he kind of he invented it in the comic books where it became a technique for decades.
Hmm.
Artists have been uh, uh, trying to simulate and do his style.
Indeed. Now the other question would be, would it be? It wouldn't be just painting styles either. I mean, this is art, like wiki art and all of that. So what
Well, you
else would
mentioned
be on the card?
photography.
That's the other question. Yes.
Photography, whole bigger world going on there.
So I was thinking Ansel Adams, for example, and like putting something into the style of Ansel Adams, or mix that with something else. Like that's another thing that we can try here. So let's save this one at the 500.
Ansel Adam was almost like they almost did look like paintings.
Mm-hmm.
They were so good.
Oh, he's one of my favorites. All right, so a couple seconds more. We'll save this one at 500, and we'll try somebody else. Whether it's Ansel Adams or whatever, we'll try to mash up two or three, or two artists and a style, or two artists for a style and keywords to get it going for a scene. So that's 500. Let's see what we got as our last Super Friends image. Not bad. Super Friends Van Gogh.
I do see heroes.
See, guy with a big ass beard in the back there. Very cool. So, what are we thinking for artists? Did you come up with that guy yet, or you want to go with two classical ones or photography? That's right. We'll go with a couple of photographer
uh,
mashup things.
the one I liked from Conan was Frazetta. Frazetta.
Alrighty.
Frank Frazetta.
FRI, FRA.
Frazetta.
Zetta. Frazetta.
Frazetta. He was one of those artists that really painted like a photographer. A lot of light, a lot of shadow. Um,
Who would have a
when he did,
contrasting style to Frazetta to make it a combination? Like if we said Frazetta and Ansel Adams, or
actually, you mix those two. Yeah, Frazetta and Ansel Adams. See, with Ansel Adams, he made photography look like artwork. And with Frazetta, he made artwork look like photography.
Waterfalls by Frazetta and Ansel Adams.
Oh, barbarians.
Barbarians? Okay.
Barbarian waterfalls, or
How about barbarians by
if you're
waterfalls?
gonna do Frazetta, put some barbarians.
By barbarians, or no, not by barbarians near waterfalls by Frazetta and Ansel Adams. I
That
like
would
that.
totally be a Conan cover, yeah.
We'll say yes, and we'll say yes, and we'll say go. And what do you think about that?
And waterfalls would totally be like an Ansel Adams like scene.
Yeah, exactly. I was always such a fan. Getting 1.1 iterations per second, so very quick again. And I expect it to be a pretty drastic change from 0 to 50.
And I wonder how much of the photography world they're feeding into this.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I would imagine they were focused on, like, traditional pencil and painting artists,
Mm-hmm.
but photography artists
That's one thing
is
I
a
can look more.
whole bigger AI.
I can look more into it because this is using the wiki art, and we have access to that one. And we also have the image based one. We have at least 10 different libraries, and we could try all of them to see what different ones do different things. We could also do a little research to see what they say about them, what the contents should be.
And how do you contribute to those libraries that,
Oh
that they're
man,
learning from?
first image already.
Oh
That's a
my
win.
God. That's what it came out with out the box. That is damn good.
Yep, exactly. Ansel Adams for the black and white, right? Very cool.
And Frazetta, I mean, Frazetta tended to do a lot. Black and white was um, his
It's
forte,
powerful. Yeah, yeah. Makes for a
and it
powerful scene.
it really did capture his style with the rocks and the light and shadow. Always high contrast. It focused on lighting, like making muscles really look muscular with
Mm-hmm.
sharp contrast and lighting. Oh, look at that! As it's putting on the additional layers, it's totally capturing that style.
Nice.
I would, if you showed me this and said this is a Frazetta, I'd believe you.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And again, generated 2 minutes, just like that. But not to take anything away from Frazetta, because I'm
No,
sure he took
no,
more than
no,
2 minutes to
no.
do his, and that's okay.
It took him for this to know what to do.
Exactly.
That's how
Exactly.
you can't take away from him.
This now builds upon. Yes, exactly. And pays homage too.
Anybody,
I mean, yeah, it's a
anybody who
neat style.
wants to be a serious artist today better be so damn good that the AIs are going to learn from you.
Hmm. Yep.
That's your challenge.
And the water flow also is very cool. I mean, just seeing how the waterfalls, come out of nowhere. It looks like in the top right corner, we still have a little bit of that initial blank wall that it hasn't done anything with. But that's, like the only
Man,
remnant of where we
I
started.
can I can totally take this image and just suck the black areas out, throw
Hmm.
moving liquid in the black areas,
Nice.
and make this image look like it's alive.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing is that these aren't just an end point; these are a starting point for art projects as well. Just taking them and doing, like you said, other things with them, whether it's transparencies or adding layers or morphing. Some of these, like with the fractals, I'll be doing some 3D morphing where you can take the fractal, because the fractal is a map where it's essentially the color is telling you the height. So it's two-dimensional length and width you're seeing on the screen, and then the color represents whether it's a deep point or a high point. And if you render the fractal and then you give it a 3D scope, I guess, it basically looks like um, topology, looks like Earth, like you're walking around on mountains and valleys and all that kind of thing. And you can set a
Yeah,
water level where
if
there's a
if
minimum
you
level.
utilize the fractals on the rocks on the sides there,
Yeah.
and blend them in perfectly, you can give textures to that flat area.
Hmm. Absolutely. And it just keeps getting better. I mean, each iteration that comes is
Oh,
it's
I
not
can't
that much
believe.
different. Now the flesh tones are coming in on this one.
Well, and now they're starting to incorporate subtle color changes that
Hmm.
they are Ansel Adamish.
Hmm. And the waterfall in the back there is getting really nice and defined.
That's amazing.
Another one would be like ice waterfalls, ice falls. That would be another cool thing to check out. Lots of white, but I always like stuff like that, like Ansel Adams stuff. I like
Your
doing
computer is going to be rendering through 2022, huh?
that. Pretty much. I might actually 2022 might be the year I get a rendering machine and just
Yeah,
have it doing its thing, and I can just check in on it every now and then.
see, man, I got to download these scripts because,
Yeah,
as long as I don't have to kill my internet doing it,
yeah.
because I would imagine there's some bandwidth going on as you're grabbing these frames.
I think it's literally just what it takes to pull down these 500 kilobyte images because these are all 574K or about that.
Yeah,
500 pixels by 500 pixels, so they're not big or demanding.
it took me 8 minutes to download a 2.4 kilobyte animated GIF the other
Wow.
night. I
Yeah,
don't want to
that was bad.
download if not during those moments.
Well, that's another thing is you could just set the iterations here to 5,000 instead of 50. So instead of pulling down an image every minute, it's going to pull down an image once every 1,000 minutes. So it's
Well,
just going to
I would
go
want,
and go and
I
go, and
would
then
want,
pull.
I would want all of these images. I
Oh yeah,
like that video option. I think it's
absolutely.
fantastic. I would love to watch that completely become what it's becoming, frame
Absolutely.
by frame.
Matter of fact, let's do that right now. Let's. I'm going to save this one, obviously, but then I can go back to the initial thing that we did and just tell it instead of every 50 frames, I'll tell it every five, and then we can see how it goes from that white wall, how fast it comes into an actual scene like this. That'll be a good one.
That really came out beautiful for such a short amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not that defined, but again, this is where the AI takes
Well,
over
yeah,
and
the funny
starts.
thing is you can't tell like a person in there. It looks like mutated people.
Exactly. And it will for now. Like as it starts homing in later, it'll get better at that. But the scene itself is coming together, and the fact that it came together so well after just the minimal input that it needs from us to get going is mind blowing to me. Like that's really the coolest part.
I love how it's rainbowing the water too.
Yeah. So we let that one go for 400, and that was
They really did extract from both artists there
absolutely,
in the AI.
absolutely. And yeah, the colors, like you said, like got purples and greens back in the waterfall in the back there. Very cool. All right, it's this one. And for the next one, we're just going to change the iterations
That
to see how
cliff
fast.
almost looks like a wild boar.
I saw it on the bottom here. It almost looks like a
Yeah,
skull.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's like a animal.
Barbarians near waterfalls.
You're gonna come up with some interesting titles
Oh, I am. I
rendering
am.
this shit. It is like songwriting.
Yeah.
You will end up right. Okay, Jason, challenge for you. Barbarians near waterfall. Glenn just wrote it. It's
Nice.
waiting for you.
It's got cover art. Cover art's done. All right. So this one I told it interval image 5. Same exact thing we just did, but it's gonna give us probably a new seed because it's gonna it's a new generation. So that one ended in 793. This should be a different one because it's a new run. Oh snap!
Oh snap!
Out of memory. Wah, wah.
So it is using memory.
On their side, that was this. That one
Oh,
connected, so it's now a different machine now. So
it
we
had
had
to bounce.
it had to bounce, yeah. And then this one has a generation of the center of the universe, but that isn't what we put there. What we said was barbarians near waterfalls by Frazetta and Ansel Adams. And interval is going to be 5, and we're using
So now it'll render every 5.
exactly, so it'll be much faster. And again, we were originally using the ImageNet, but this last one I think we were using WikiArt, so we'll go back to using WikiArt, so it's the same source that we were using last time. And that's fine. And good. We might have to pull some of the other things back down, but I think we're okay. Yep, and it's a new seed, so definitely will be different than it was before, but by doing every 5, we should be getting images very quickly.
So
Rapid
the
fire.
art generator is the one that does drawing.
Mm-hmm.
The video generator is the one that takes those drawings and
Turns the
throws them
frames into a
into
video.
a video.
And then below that is the one that will do the supersize, where you can take the 500 by 500 and blow it up to 17 by 17, 1700 by 1700 with no loss.
Looks like he's going through a snowstorm.
Yeah,
That looks like here during the winter.
there you go. Except over there it's probably whiter even. All the blinding, driving white snow. Definitely some similar waterfalls.
Oh,
Not
this
not
is
the
a
same waterfalls, but
no. This is a cool waterfall. It's almost smoky looking,
yeah.
misty.
Yep, yep.
And that almost does look like Conan
Hmm.
with his maiden to his right.
Exactly. Very cool. And I thought the
And
other
some
five would be
dude he
cool, but that
probably
is,
killed all the way to the left.
yep, washing away in the river.
Look at the rock detail.
Yep, yep.
Even on this early frame, that rock in the bottom right
That almost looks like human
has a
muscles.
has a lot of detail in it.
The darker rock looks like it's got a lot of detail, and the below that it almost looks like human body in the bottom right corner.
Yeah, we had random bodies in the last one too.
Yep, yep.
When,
As it's
when
trying
when
to
you're
run back.
doing a Frazetta, like everything looks like muscle.
Yep.
Actually, now it looks like a female body because I see a boobie. That looked like a boobie
Yeah. We do see what
or
we
a
want to
butt.
see, right?
I always want to see boobies.
Yeah, of course, of course. Now this is only at 110, so this would have only been 2 frames in from before. So before, when we got up to, I think 400 is where we got up to. So that's where we were starting to get the colors coming in more, like the purples and the greens. So we'll see if at about that time. And again, this doesn't seem to be bad as far
Wow,
as
it
the
really is
downloads.
rendering fast at those 5 frames.
Yeah, because basically as it renders a frame, it's already downloading the next one. Or
Look
already,
at the detail in the water now,
yeah.
like just in the middle there.
Hmm. Yeah, the reflecting,
Yeah,
and
you're
that's one of
starting to
those
see
things.
reflection.
It would take so long to physically draw that, but with the AI able to generate that, that saves so much.
And
Makes it so
and
realistic looking.
this is not just flat art generation. I mean, this is 3D art. When you see reflections and
Hmm.
light reflections, this is why those GPUs matter
Yeah, absolutely.
because
And that's
that's
the
where
thing
the
is if you're
work.
rendering this without the GPU, it would be taking about a minute or so per frame instead of a second or so per frame. So it'd be at least 60 times slower.
I mean, it would eventually look the same,
Yeah,
just days
you
later
just have to
instead of
you're brute
hours
forcing
later.
it. At that point, you're brute forcing it. Yeah, we're starting to get some colors now in the middle there. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
very cool.
interesting how it introduces the color layers. That's another thing that I'd like to test with dual artists
Hmm.
because the choice of bringing in the colors and I think that's where it derives the Ansel part
Hmm.
more as it incorporates the colors because it comes out looking like a Frazetta at the beginning and
Hmm.
it
Yeah,
starts to turn into an Adams as those colors. Wow, that's really looking cool.
yeah. The colors are really starting to come in. That middle pool, like you said, is looking more defined, more
Yeah, it's
calm,
like
but
he's
even
got a
with the frosting
treasure
off
of
it.
gold in the river. Like he's
Yeah,
about to go grab his gold
nice.
from a that is probably a dead dude.
Yep.
Like that body in front looks like his head's gone.
Hmm. That already washed away. And in that yeah, like purples and yellows now in that bottom waterfall, they're getting a little more defined in the color.
And whatever's in the back now looks like a pet rhino or something.
Yeah, or a narwhal.
Yeah, he's kind of coming through the smoke, so there's like a little bit of horn or something I don't see, but
Hmm.
that
Yeah,
is wild.
and the fact that it's changing every couple seconds, so it's like there's 270 and then
Oh,
275.
and there's a girl in the back right that looks like she's about to snipe anybody with an arrow.
Nice. Just in case the barbarian wasn't enough, need somebody keeping watch.
Man, that water really comes out beautiful.
Yeah. And that would just take so much time and patience and effort to do. And again, nothing against that. I would be all over it. If I could do that, I would
And
happily invest all that time and effort in that.
the tried and true test is if
Mm-hmm.
you were to take this picture, print it out, and
Mm-hmm.
go ask 100 people, like, what do you think of this? Chances are you're not going to get anybody who's going to look at it and say, I think that was made by a computer. or,
Exactly.
or I
Exactly.
think that's not like, that wasn't made by a human. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think out of the box, if you didn't say anything, you said, what do you think of this picture?
Mm-hmm.
They'd give you an artistic interpretation,
Absolutely.
which
And
is
if
the
you asked him,
test.
and if you asked him a second question, which is, what do you think about computer generated art? He said, on an unrelated question, what do you
Oh,
think about computer
Glenn, do
generated art?
this. Do this. Go out and show 100 people that I'm totally fascinated to see what they would say.
Mm-hmm. And say, what if I told you I generated this in 5 minutes with an AI on a computer?
I bet you'd get 100. Like what? Whoa,
I'd be
no
picking up
way.
jaws off the floor left and right.
It's
But that's
kind
the
of
thing.
like the modern Pepsi challenge.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely the details are very cool. And we're only at 370, so we're getting close to that 400 where we stopped the other one. So this is now homing into about the same level of detail, and you can see it's a
Oh,
completely
wow.
different scene. But
Well, it just keeps getting cooler and cooler. That extra detail is
yeah,
really like making me see what I thought I saw.
and that is the one issue I have with this whole thing is that I never want to let it stop. It's like since each image is
Uh,
even cooler than the last one, it's like I want to stop and save this one, but then I'm like, wait, I know the next one's going to be even cooler, so I just got to wait for that.
and eventually, like, there would come a point where it would make sense to stop because you don't see much change anymore.
Exactly.
Eventually, it's got to hit a
A
finishing
wall.
point.
And that's actually what these loss numbers are kind of helping with. Like right now we're at 0.602, and again we're trying to get that down under zero point 0.5. And if it starts going up, like now it's 0.61, so it's going up, so it's a little less sure. Again, nothing to be alarmed about. It's just this is how the AI is going through and scoring things. So if it did a good job on that last render, heading towards the destination, then it goes down in the loss number.
It totally turned that gold in the river into brush. Now that
Yeah, yeah, you
is
see that.
brush.
Yep, and in the
Holy
left side
shit.
too.
And now it's a rock. That's no longer a body. That is an actual rock that is really cool
On the left side, it
shaped.
almost looks like a little like a samurai panda holding a sword up or something.
Yes, he is still a mystery. That's his pet,
Yeah.
his guardian watchdog.
And we're at 470 at this point, and again 0.606 for the losses, so it's not down under 50. But again, it's working its way down. It's not critical that it works its way down, but you would notice if that number was going up, the scene would be getting less defined. It would be getting more uncertain about what it's doing. But now, as it's going down, it's getting more defined and more certain. It's still going to have issues with faces and things, but since we didn't specifically start it with a face image and just told it, barbarians by whatever, it can make
Yeah,
that
yeah.
decision itself whether it wants
The
to show
parts that
faces.
would be faces here don't need a lot of detail. What's amazing is the rock detail, the water detail. You forget that you actually his face looks like it's in a mask. Like
Yeah, yeah,
at this point, he looks like he's wearing a silver mask.
sure. And actually, the bigger rocks in the center of the screen there look like a barbarian, and just like the bottom one did. It like looks like muscles, but it could be stones as well.
Oh, and those side like rocks look smooth and fucking beautifully cracked.
And you see the mist in the back left over there? The back left has some good detail up in the top of there too.
Actually, the mist has been clearing up because
Mm-hmm.
that little pet that he has back there
Used to be all in the
looked like
mist,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, it looked like his horns were in the mist earlier, and now it's almost like it's come out of it.
I think that's how part of the way the AI is also able to work by keeping that mist. It can keep things vague enough so that as it does define things, it can then have room to define other things, and then it
This
starts to
addition,
crystallize out of there.
this additional definition has added a lot of depth of field. At
Yes.
this point, like now I see three layers. That front layer with the rock in the front over on
Yep.
the right, you
Yep.
have the water in the middle layer, and then you have the background with the background waterfall and everything. It has separated those three layers in the picture
Yep.
and given them depth of field.
And the water looks very different in different places too. Like you have the very calm, smooth water in the middle, and you have
That
the
is the
everything
Ansel
underneath.
Adams.
Yeah.
The more this has rendered, it has taken from it. How did you phrase this? You started with Frazetta and then you went to Ansel Adams. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, as you do your testing,
Mm-hmm.
flip
Switch the order.
those
Yeah, yeah.
and record the same video in the same frame rate and see how it interprets with them reversed, and you'll get to know how this AI thinks.
The other thing that you could do is take the same thing and say Barbarians Near Waterfalls by Frazetta, let it run for 250, and then change it to by Ansel Adams and let it run
Oh,
from
that
there.
yeah, that'd be another test. Individual artists with the same keywords
Yep.
together, and then reverse those two. That's a great test of the AI.
Yeah. And again it'll tell us whether it's combining them or adding them in series and all of that, whether you get the same results by saying this guy then that guy, or whether it's different than it is if you say this guy
It
and that guy.
it'll show you how the AI thinks of combinations and how it blends them.
Mm-hmm. Getting
And
to know our friend the AI.
I'd really be surprised if in those tests you ended up with results that looked the same. I'd
Yeah,
really be
exactly.
surprised.
Exactly. It has to do with that seed. That seed is a very large number. That's at least a 20-digit number,
And it
and
really
it's going to be different.
changes.
Hmm.
It changes a lot of the dynamics.
Yep. Everything will be different every time.
That's
Very cool.
amazing where it's at now. Like that
Hmm.
has become a fucking cover.
Yeah, and that's at 700 iterations. So that took about 10 minutes because it's about an iteration or about an iteration per second. So yeah, 10, 15 minutes of allowing the AI to do its thing. And again, it's throwing out 49 out of every 50 images. Or at this point, no, it's throwing out 4 out of every 5 images. So it's only showing us every fifth iteration that it does. But that's still a lot
I
more than it usually shows.
I am definitely going to be playing with some of
Oh, yes, you are. You're going to be playing with this if I have to come over there and make you play with this.
No arm twisting at this point.
I
I'm
wouldn't think it must
sold.
be necessary. Yeah, exactly. And just these are excellent tests as well. Like the whole combination, knowing of a couple of artists to actually combine. Because again, with me, I'm focused more on what I like the look of. I don't really focus on who made it. So for me, I don't have a large library of artists that I could just rattle off, right? But by going and finding some artists' names, and then that gives me an idea for styles, and I have
Well,
plenty
this
of ideas for
compels you.
subject matter. Yes,
This
exactly.
compels you to want to go learn about the because now that I'm thinking of comic artists, I mean, I have hundreds of them
Exactly.
literally over the
Exactly.
last 30 years.
And there
I'm
are
just
elements
trying to
about their
think of
styles that
which
you
one do
like.
I want to start with.
There's elements of styles like you might like this particular element of this guy's style, but you prefer that element of this guy's style. And now you could say do both, like combine this guy and that guy and see what you get. Like combine the guy who makes Spawn with the guy who does this, right? Like get a couple things like
Todd
that together,
McFarlane.
mashups.
Ah,
Yeah, there
Todd
you go.
McFarlane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Nice.
I actually, oh, now, yeah, now I really want to test this because he's like Frazetta.
Yeah.
Frazetta is, I think, my favorite artist in comic books. The whole reason why I ever got fascinated with comic books was Conan art. And,
Mm-hmm.
and when I saw it as a kid, it was like, whoa, that is such cool artwork. And turns out comic books were doing that. And Frazetta was leading the way with that light shadow
Mm-hmm.
art style. It's what got me into comic books.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. I'm going to go ahead and stop this one because otherwise we could let this run all day. We'll see what we get as our final barbarian image for today. And then we'll try a different generation.
I love where it left off.
Yeah. And that's 835 iterations.
And now it's more like he's in a chamber. Like by the end, there's defined lighting. It's almost like he's in a fucking cave,
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
and there's torches in various spots.
Mm-hmm. Now, who should we mix? You said McFarland, right? So let's see
If you said to me even 5 years ago, like
this was
that
possible.
computers were going to be doing to that level that fast, just off of keywords, I mean that's the big deal. Like
Yeah.
text recognition is just as impressive here as the AI itself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But you know what's kicked in all that recognition technology? Mobile phones and autocorrect. Like
Yeah. True.
we have programmed AI for text recognition in ways that those computers now know what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. They do, and they respond.
In
Now,
some
is it?
cases, they think they know better than you. You didn't mean that.
Who should we mix with McFarland?
If you're gonna mix with Todd McFarlane,
And is that spelled right?
oh, McFarland, it looks right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And how
See now,
about?
with McFarland, I'm expecting a lot of webs or a lot of strings, and like his style was all about
How about
excessive
mixing with Van
detail.
Gogh? Van Gogh for the
Actually, he's strings in the swirls. Yeah.
and what should we make them do?
Well, McFarlane is Spider-Man and Spawn. So if you can find a
Now I don't know if let's just see what it does with Spider-Man versus Spawn and
or
see.
just spiders and
Just want to see if
devil,
if it'll actually pull
devil
characters.
spider,
Devil Spider.
devil spider.
All right, I like it.
Jason would like that.
Absolutely. Devil Spider by Todd
Yeah,
McFarlane and Vincent Van Gogh.
sounds like a metal band. We are Devil Spider.
It does, actually. That's not bad. Especially if you had 8 members.
Exactly. There's got to be some context.
Oh, this is going to be every 5 iterations as well, I think. I think I left it that way, so it'll probably be fast as well. Looks a lot like spiders already. No.
I would imagine the AI loves spiders.
Oh, absolutely. Creepy. Got a bit of a moon or sun looking thing coming up in the right there.
Yeah, it's actually starting with Van Gogh. Like right
Yeah.
now, that looks
Yep.
like a Van Gogh. What's that Starry Night?
Yep. Yep. Starry Night. Yep.
They're applying like a canvas texture almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely see the paint texture on that for sure.
Now I can't
Brush
wait to
strokes.
see what the spider, like a spider. I mean, I don't like spiders, but they're cool to look at.
I see legs showing up now. Almost looks like an apple on top of the spider. Very cool.
Oh yeah, it's starting to look at least one spider and
Mm-hmm.
two others that are.
In the neighborhood. I like the blue. I'm not used to seeing a blue spider. It's like iridescent.
Well, they are definitely pulling their colors from Van Gogh right now.
And that is going to be one evil looking spider when it gets done, I think. It doesn't have to worry about faces either. So the AI should have no trouble. I haven't been seeing the chat too well here because I doesn't keep up with it on, but I'm not sure if Angie's
Interesting.
getting near pumpkin time or not. It is approaching midnight. We'll see what she says.
See, that's a sunny spider. That's not a metal cover.
Oh, it's getting there. I think instead of Van Gogh, we might have wanted to go with something a little darker. But this could be interesting to get the you know that kind of color palette, like you were mentioning, the color palette of Van Gogh and Devil Spider. They don't really go together, so the AI might have some difficulty with it. But it's doing a really good job, I think, of trying to mix the two ideas.
Oh, it's incorporating aspects of the artist. More from Van Gogh right now. It might not know McFarlane, or we
Oh,
might have spelled it wrong.
it looks like it's pulling something. I mean, the spider's starting to look definitely non Van Goghish in the middle.
Yeah, the middle one actually is kind of Todd McFarlane-ish. The way he would draw his spiders, they would look very long and creepy like that.
Mm-hmm.
The fat spider, like the pit bull spider in the front. Oh, he's starting to look cool.
Yeah, exactly. And we're at 190.
That is not a spider I would want to run across.
No, but then again, the one that Schmorley had in his yard, I don't want to run across that one either. That was a badass spider. He had glass for for his little
Well,
trapdoor.
Australian spiders. Every animal over there is weird.
They all want to kill you too. Every
I would
animal in
imagine
Australia.
the spiders over there are like more normal looking than every other animal.
Yeah, they got some wacky stuff over there for sure.
Oh, especially for insects.
Hmm. This is looking suitably creepy for sure. At 235.
And again, the color choices as it renders more and more, the colors get darker and darker. The contrast comes out more,
Yeah.
and it really does start to define the area in the picture with each iteration.
I'm curious what it's like. All this looks almost like branching stuff underneath the spider. That's gonna probably all turn into web.
See, one of your tests is going to end up being a longevity one, which
Mm-hmm.
you'll need a video for to really appreciate because it's not like you're going to be able to watch it for like
Yeah. Hours
20
and
plus
hours.
hours. But where it hits that like sweet spot of like, oh, not a lot of changes anymore,
Mm-hmm.
how long it takes to get there.
Yep.
Very curious.
And again, it could just be at that point, it's just a matter of feeding it different keywords. So we can take it, refeed it back in, and give it different keywords and say, I want to take it in a different direction now. Like at this point, we might say, I'm not liking the Van Gogh aspect, but now I can just go up there, take this as a seed image, and say, instead of Van Gogh, let's go with McFarland and
and
one of the other
and
guys, like Tim White
and
or
when
whoever.
you do tests like this,
Mm-hmm.
when you're merging two artists, the way that's one kind of test.
Mm-hmm.
Single artist, if you find it after 12 hours with a single artist and a keyword,
Mm-hmm.
it starts to hit a sweet spot, and multiple tests across different keywords, different artists seem to hit the same time point,
Mm-hmm.
then you're seeing a pattern in rendering time.
Yep.
Whoa, that really that is now a devil spider.
Mm-hmm.
No shit.
It has morphed. It almost looks like somebody in the background behind him, like a
Yeah,
very stylized.
like there's an extended head off of that little
Yeah.
spider.
Yeah.
And
Very
he
cool.
does have horns.
Mm-hmm. As is tradition.
And now you got these like the flowers in the front.
Yep. Flowers showing up. Yep.
They're becoming more flowery.
I'm still expecting some web stuff to happen with the way the canvas looks almost ripped with these streaks, striations going across.
Well, and you now you're seeing the McFarland influence with those like this on the blacks, like
Mm-hmm.
all the webbing looking black that you're seeing in this picture. Oh, it keeps looking cooler as
Yep.
it's turned the yellow and the gold areas. They look like they're carved gold now.
Yep. Very cool. And it almost looks like green and yellow flames coming off in the back there. The
Yeah, I could
gold.
definitely uh, run some animations in between like that golden area and
Mm-hmm.
make it look like it's fire
Yeah.
very easily. Like
Yep. Yep.
chroming right now on this picture, I could make that stuff look like fire and everything else look sharp and in the front of that fire.
Nice. And that's the thing is these are going to serve. These are going to be such good seed images for all that kind of stuff. Whether I use them just as they are, or whether I go ahead and bring them into Photoshop or wherever and start modifying them from there, they all just have great potential to be anything really. And the fact that we can just come up with an idea, throw a couple of words down on, and within seconds have a workable idea, or at least a workable baseline of an idea, is just fantastic. And I know that BandLab is all about music, and this isn't music, but this relates as being art, as well as
Uh,
people need visual art for doing things on BandLab as well.
Everybody who's posting up there on BandLab is putting an image with their posts.
And if you put up a post with an image like this, what kind of response do you think you get?
That's a cool image.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you get it?
And you say, I made it, or at least I told the AI to make it. And they say, what? Exactly.
No,
Good stuff.
I would definitely say like this is useful to BandLab users because a lot of them do take the images they put. And sometimes you're looking for a certain image for a song.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd like to see if anybody on BandLab goes and puts their song title into this thing
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
lets
what
it
I was thinking. Yeah.
render
Yep.
by a certain artist.
Yep.
If they get something from this,
Mm-hmm.
that's that's useful.
Mm-hmm. Now the
If
other
any
idea
of
I
you
had.
do it, let us know.
Now this is very cool, and we're going to save this where he is. And I want to try something else real quick, and that is to basically feed it nothing except for artists. So not give it a
Oh, no
subject at all,
keywords?
no keywords, but just say like these two artists and go like that sort of thing. Maybe not McFarland and Van Gogh, but let's see what we do here first. Let's stop that.
Well,
Save our last.
what are they like? Five great artists of the world.
Oh, there's
Top
more than a couple. I did Monet, Manet. I
artists.
was thinking Rembrandt would be another one to try. Something about the light and dark though is where whether you're looking for somebody who's completely opposing styles that you're trying to mash together, or two complementary styles that you're trying to mash together.
Google assumed when I asked for top artists, I wanted music artists.
Ah, see, they know
See,
you.
Google knows me. Top
Absolutely.
painting. Let's go with painters.
Painting masters. How about that?
Picasso's first one, Van Gogh, oh, Da Vinci. Yes, I agree. Monet, Rembrandt. Oh, Michelangelo got to be pissed. He came in sixth.
I think he'll get over it.
That's a tough top five, man. Like
Absolutely.
Salvador Dali got there at
Dolly,
seven.
that's
Yeah,
what I was
he's
thinking. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah, he's a very creative motherfucker.
Salvador Dali. And who? There's an L in Salvador. How about that? I think that's right. Salvador Dali. And who should we mix? What about McFarland? That could be an interesting. Actually, wait. I have an idea. I think it was Tim White. Let me see. I think that's what it was. And every five. So this is just telling it to start from pretty much scratch. And there's your code, Tony, as far as seeing the code blocks there. Tell you all what's happening.
See, and a lot of that is just like an initialization of the size and details,
Mm-hmm.
but there's smidges of AI in there.
Yeah.
When it's deciding like where to pick from and when
Mm-hmm.
or why,
And in this case,
it's the AI part that I really want to analyze.
yeah. In this case, we're seeing dealer's choice. We're saying these two styles and whatever's on your mind. So we'll see what the AI is thinking about.
Ooh, looks like a Grim Reaper coming from the distance.
It does. And a sailboat in the bottom there.
Yes, death is coming.
Death is coming to your sailboat now. Nice use of the blues and the golds, though.
It does look like it's going to be an ocean picture.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The AI misses the sea.
Oh, it's interesting as it, it's almost like watching an interlaced image. You remember when
Mm-hmm.
GIFs started becoming, it's like, oh, it's blurry, now it's sharp.
Yep.
Um, wow, it really goes through that fast on certain details. Like, look how that just went from complete nothing to
Mm-hmm. Full on
psychedelic
scene.
clouds.
And this is only at 80 and 85. So again, if we would run it with the 50, we only would have seen this image. So it would have been from white wall to this image, and then the next one would be the 100 image, which is coming up soon. Which still, there's a lot of progress in that first 50. But then now we've gotten some really sharp details. We're actually got a
Yeah,
person right in the middle here.
I can't believe how those like golden clouds are just transforming the way
Yeah,
cheetahs now.
that's what I was saying.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
but it's also interwoven, so it's like three-dimensional interwoven cheetah pattern
Yeah,
looking
and
stuff.
then look at the way it's like the water reflection.
Yeah,
That's very impressive,
and the sky as well. I mean, that's definitely cool.
and it's rendering it fast as hell. Again, this could be a Pink Floyd album. Now that's a
Yep,
dude in a suit,
I
like
see
on
that
an
guy.
island
Yeah,
of cheetahs.
with a little city off in the distance on the right there.
Little Pink Floyd music going.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, woo, woo, woo.
Where's RJS when you need him? Get little Gilmore on.
Oh, and you got a dude with headphones in the sky.
Nice. Yeah. And I see an eye patch on somebody in the sky there too, like an orange, goldish
Yeah,
looking eye
on
patch
his
or
left eye.
sunglasses. Yeah.
And he's breathing out cheetah dust.
Yep. It's his fault. He's responsible for the cheetahs. Nope. We fell behind. We got all these other ones because I wasn't at the bottom.
Oh, those clouds really came out nice.
There we are. Gotta stay current. Nice. More detail coming in the left there.
That is a technology we are going to be
Leveraging.
utilizing ourselves and seeing a lot more of.
Yes, indeed. And the music side of it as well. Again, this not the same place, not the same website, but that they're able to do this with visual stuff. I can just completely see the case to take this musically and say mix Bach and Eddie Van Halen or whatever. Like, taking the same principles that we're seeing here with the AI, they have large enough libraries to look through and good enough training models to come up with generative music as well.
If you type your album title or your song
Hmm.
title
Yep.
and say buy a
Hmm.
style,
Exactly.
if you're happy with what you got, use that shit as a cover.
Hmm.
'Cause that's a cool way to make a cover these days.
Absolutely. And again, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better cover art than this. I mean, just even as it is now, before it finishes all the cheetah dust. But
And
it'll
now
just
he's
get better as it goes.
it's like he's a fisherman. I
Hmm.
see a fisherman now. That's what I'm beginning to see.
I'm trying to figure out what this big dark thing in the title, the center right, is.
Actually, he's golfing on the ocean. I'm not sure what he's doing. Oh,
I
there's
do
two
see a
of them.
boat. I see a boat now, like a
There's
tugboat coming
two
in
of them now.
right behind him.
There's a dude to his right that's kind of off in the mist. Oh, and he's got wings. Whoa. I can't wait to see like where this goes.
Yep. And the loss number is down to 59%, so it's still
That's
going down.
crazy.
Beautiful clouds too.
Yeah, see, and she's too. They are vibrant as hell, huh?
Mhm.
I love the color choices.
And again,
In
that's
every
mostly due to the artists
in
chosen
every
rather than
style
the
that
AI,
you've
but
chosen,
hmm,
the colors have not failed in any direction.
hmm,
The
yep.
Ansel Adams colored in a way that lent to his classic
Hmm.
style.
And I always loved his snow paintings where it was all like black and white anyway. But yeah, I mean, for sure, beautiful stuff. See some boats happening in the foreground here now too, on the right side.
Yeah, that sky has just turned into amazing.
It's like it's peeling out this big rock in the background there from within the sky. That's what like the rest of that stuff will probably be additional background.
And it's kind of a hybrid. It's like half drawn art, half visual art.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm looking at pictures and drawings
Yeah, exactly.
growing out of each other.
Hmm.
Like that eggplant. That's now an eggplant.
Exactly. That was the color of it, and I was like, well, it seems kind
Actually,
of a weird
that's
thing.
a snail puking or eating up an eggplant. I don't know which direction that's going, but
Looks painful.
or pleasant.
It's all about what you like, right?
Or maybe he's a turtle. That
Hmm.
could be a turtle.
Turtle shell, sure.
And starting to look like a shell.
And again, like as far as the loss number goes on this, we didn't really tell it anything to do. All we told it is two styles, so it should have no problem figuring that out. But as far as what it wants to do for the picture, that's the question. What does the AI pull from that? Is it, how does it choose this over that? That's the question. It's all about the scoring algorithm. It scores it against the rest of the pictures it sees on the internet and says, is this good or bad? Do I want to go this way or that way? But it is very interesting
And
to see the
oh
choices it
wow,
makes.
really starting getting like now there's a city on the left and
Exactly.
a little gullet on the right, like a
Hmm.
bridge with a
Little tower on it, yeah.
man. I re-
Almost like a toll booth.
if you could render this at like 2000 pixels instead of 500, I'd really love to zoom in on those things and
Right here
see
is the
like what it thinks.
I haven't tried this one yet, but this is the other super enhanced the generated image to get it from 500 by 500 to 1760 by 1760 with
and
no
and and
loss. So
you can do this yourself.
yeah,
It's nice that like they give you that. That's a nice easy option to just upscale
yep,
because changing from 500 to 1770 by itself
hmm,
isn't actually. Yes, you are resizing it, but not all resizing is created equal.
right,
You can massage resize things, and Photoshop has several ways to do that where it it doesn't degrade if you're going 5, 8 times the size.
hmm,
They've gotten really good at building it back up without
right,
eating the pixels away.
hmm.
After 8 times, starts to get a little wonky.
And that's some of that is from the fractals as well. The way they would do the solid guessing for the border lines, the shorelines, because as you zoom in on a fractal, it gets more
Yeah,
crisp because it's as you're getting closer, the shoreline gets longer, so it's just more detailed, more little ins and outs and all that kind of stuff.
but if you're ever like using like the old Mandelbrot and you're
Hmm.
zooming in,
Hmm.
no matter how far you went in, it still was
It's still
amazing
self-similar. Yeah.
because it's all vector. Like the Mandelbrot approach was like each pixel as it kept generating more and more, um, it actually grew in size. The
Hmm.
the size of the image went from little 1 by 1 pixel image to 10 pixel to 100 pixel to 1,000 pixel.
Hmm.
Um, it literally grows, and
Right.
by doing so, the detail grows with it.
Hmm.
That is what this is doing. It's just keeping it to a 500 pixel dimension
Hmm.
and then rendering inside of it. But if you can
It's basically
say
doing.
instead of 500 pixels,
Mhm.
5,000 pixels render the same thing,
Mhm.
it is capable of doing it.
What I would see it as, if you wanted to do that, one way to do it would be to take this 500 by 500, do that 1700 blow up they're talking about at the bottom, and then take each 500 by 500 piece of that and blow each of those up to the 1700. So you would end up with something that is quite large at that point, but you're using the AI to make them larger without the loss, is the thing.
See, the other thing is its image sources. Like the library that it comes from, if those images, which I'm assuming those images are going to be like, they are going to be 2K or 4K resolution, because scanners, people who like to archive things like that, shoot for the highest resolution and
Mm-hmm.
downsample.
Right.
Don't assume you're going to upsample.
Mm-hmm. They want the best resolution saved, but they want a quick, easy thumbnail or whatever version
You
to
want
be
the
able to
best
work with.
resolution you can get. So I'm sure every artist that matters out there, their images are at the highest rate. For the archivers, for the museums of imaging, uh, they're going to store 2000K or bigger.
Mm-hmm.
4K is now the standard, so in the future that is what they'll do. Oh, it
Exactly.
is a snail. What's he
It is.
eating though,
It is a
Ange?
snail. Yeah.
What's he eating, Ange? Because or is he eating it or is he spitting it up?
Or is he carrying
No, he looks like he's chowing
it?
it.
And now you can see how on the right side of the image, the you have all the way to the background, the clouds and all that, because
Oh,
that's where all of that leopard stuff was before. But now it defined itself into all
that
clouds and distant
does
ground.
look like George Bush too, she says.
Yeah, it does. What's he doing in my picture? Why is the AI thinking about George Bush? It's a conspiracy. That's a guy in a suit. That works.
Ange, how you doing there? You pumpkin yet?
Or are you enjoying the art show?
I think she's multitasking.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people
Yep.
popping in and out. I'm sure there's a party going on back there.
Oh yeah, there always a party going on back there. That's the way that works. This is very cool though.
I love how that city has just formed out of all that. Like
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning, the sides were, and the clouds,
Even just a little while ago.
all the things. Oh, then now there's cities in the sky. Now that's really cool.
See, this is going backwards. Actually, this is going back to earlier renditions. So this is where it's got the leopard stuff that isn't as well defined, and we didn't see the snail as well defined yet. But then as we rendered another couple hundred images after that, because I think that was, let's see, all the way down here, getting more of the city there, more of the stuff on the right, all the way back down to the current image.
Wow,
It's
you're
been
gonna
busy.
end, yeah, you're gonna end up with a big ass screen with all. Although if you don't need to have the video at that point if you have all these. I would rather have these as frames
Yeah,
because it's very easy to take all these frames in a folder and
mm-hmm.
make a video.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
I'd rather have the frames.
Yep, exactly. So this is at 850. Is how far we've gotten so far.
When
You
you
see the
save the
foreground is getting
video,
there. Mm-hmm. That I haven't
does
done
it
yet. I haven't tried
does
that.
it
So,
do, see if it gives you an option for progressive pings
mm-hmm.
because that's your best choice.
Mm-hmm.
I- Unless you actually do want a video file, but if you do want a video file, you can always load it up and the beauty of loading it up that way, you can choose the frame rate. So if you want it to be 15 frames per second or 5 frames per second, faster video.
Yep. Nice.
This kind of stuff I would likely play at a very fast frame rate.
Hmm.
It's like time lapse.
Yeah. And watching it just generate out of nothing. And also, I think that the first 100 or so iterations would probably be the most interesting for that, because that would be
Yes.
the most change. And so those you would probably want to slow down the frame rate so that you're actually drawing out the process, because otherwise it'll happen in a blink of an eye. But
Yeah.
then from 100 to 1,000, you can make that go a lot faster because there'll be less frequent change, but
Well,
more definition happening.
one of the things when you're doing more frames, like you're doing it at 5,
Hmm.
you're not giving it as much time to add more detail. So the
Exactly.
changes are going to be smaller.
Yep.
But if you're having a video and you want more of a morph
Hmm.
to take a little longer, you would want the changes to actually be spread out and not so drastic. If you
Hmm.
wanted it to really morph and go quick, then you'd want longer intervals, and boom, it really changes every couple of frames.
Hmm. We can test it out right now. We can stop it and ask it to
I mean that
save
that
the
went
image.
through that went through 960
Yep, 960 so far.
at 5, so like
Yep.
every 5, so that's technically 5 divided by,
When we get to
if
a
it was
thousand,
a
it'll be 200.
thousand it'd be 200, yeah,
Yep.
like 1/5 of the
Hmm. So we'll stop it at about 1,000, and we'll try to generate a video.
I love how it darkened up everything up there and on the bottom, like it just kind of set the difference between the atmosphere and space.
Mm-hmm. Trying to see where the actual run is. Okay, good enough. Stop.
See, a lot of that code is very familiar.
Yeah.
Python and JavaScript are not that much different in the way they format and structure.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost identical. It's just what you start with, the keywords, the
Right.
commands.
Setting it all up.
Most languages are that like that nowadays. Once you get past the command and the variable part of programming, the parameters and how you put something, comma, the parameter equals something, comma, the structure
Mm-hmm.
has gotten pretty standard and consistent.
Generating video. So it does have all 1,000. Just does it as one click, and we'll see what it does here.
Doesn't look like it's taking a lot of time.
Nah. It shouldn't really have to. All it has to do is figure out how long to hold each frame if we're moving along. I like the fact that it is generando video. Generando video.
Makes me want to dance.
About a fifth of the way done. That's not bad. But yeah, that'll be interesting because again, with the if we were doing this with
And
the
that's
50
a
iterations,
thousand and seven frames.
1,007 iterations that we did, I think. So that's a good question. 1,000 iterations, it should only. I thought it was only going to be grabbing the frames that we had, but it might actually be grabbing all the frames. So it might not matter how often you have it spit a frame to you. It might generate it from everything that it generated because this is looking like it's using all 1,007 generated frames. So that would be cool. Then it would be the smoothest of that. But again, the video would look um, highest speed, I guess, like most change at the very beginning. So it goes from blank to all of a sudden a scene starts coming out, but then it would just be minor adjustments towards the end. But yeah, we'll see. This would have been interesting to do for the one that I let run for hours and hours, because there was one that ran for over 2,000. I think it was like 2,500 iterations. It might have been even more. And just actually, I think it was over 10,000 iterations. But anyway, the seeing that it was basically that was the one that was flip flopping back and forth. It never really homed in on a target and really got there. It just kept vacillating back and forth between like pink and purple clouds for the areas that were
Well,
not well defined.
even that's useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, some of that when you do this is like the visuals.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You take this, blur it, or
Mm-hmm.
run an effect on it, and next thing you
Mm-hmm.
know, you have a visual.
Absolutely. And that's what all this could be. I mean, I can just be generating this all day and then use each of these as sources for other things. You can have it as a background on the screen while you shoot something else or all that kind of thing. There's just so many options of what we can do with this
You know
stuff
what's
once we have it.
crazy?
Mm-hmm.
You're showing me this with AI generated
Mm-hmm.
art. Joe's been showing me the pour painting,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
which is
Those are
like
awesome.
analog
Exactly. I love the ones
versions
those
of.
man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm seeing art from both sides of the spectrum.
Absolutely.
You take what he's doing there, blended with what's going on here, oh, a lot of possibilities.
Hmm.
And that took 3 minutes to render
Yeah.
the
El
video.
video está listo. The video is ready. Show video in collab. My left mouse button's working. There
So if it's 30 frames per second, 1,000 frames, should be like a couple minutes, two-ish.
we go. Question
If
is,
you wanted to make a video for your song,
we'll download the video. Video MP4. We have any word from Ange about how she's doing? 1225.
she must be squishy pumpkin.
Could well be. This is going to take a little bit to download. It's about 20% or 15% at this point. Let's see what we get.
You guys look like you're downloading on my connection. It took me
No.
3 hours, 3 hours to upload an 8 meg file
Ouch.
this afternoon. An 8 meg MP3, something
Hmm.
that we used to do without blinking.
Yeah, the fact that you've got such crippled internet has really got to be so debilitating. I feel for you, man. I really do. I know how frustrating it can be, and especially for somebody who is a tech guy to not have access to tech like that, it's got to suck.
Well, I really think a tower went down, like because I had to move my router literally to the outside
Mm-hmm.
to get a couple of bars.
Right.
But I actually got a bunch of bars. Usually I'm always at one
Mm-hmm.
where I'm in the basement. Out there I'm getting like 3 bars, and I haven't dropped since 9:30.
Nice.
So
Good
if they
deal.
get that tower back up, I might get like a full 5 bars.
Now, when Joe was doing those pour videos, was that he was pouring on canvas and then allowing it to dry, and then was taking photos or videos of that, right?
Actually, as he was pouring it, he drops instigators, chemicals that make the paint react
Mm-hmm.
and create the bubbles and the textures.
Nice.
It's analog
Yeah, there was another one I
style
was telling him about
fractals.
that was analog like that, but it was using spray paint, and they were using spray paint on a surface, and then they would take like just a page of a magazine and like cover it and like rip it off, and it would pull off, and it would basically leave the
Yeah,
texture behind that it looked like a planet almost. It was really cool.
yeah. He mentioned wanting to do that too,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
or that he had done it.
Nice.
I I don't think there's anything he hasn't tried as far as paints go. Very
Very cool.
creative.
Yeah.
Almost there.
Almost.
I like when I see it like past 75% after a minute or two.
Mm-hmm.
Movement in a progress bar is what I miss.
Yeah. And I'm sure with your connection there, you miss it a lot.
I I wondered for like 20 minutes if my transfer was even going earlier. I was like, son of a bitch, is this thing even moving?
Mm-hmm.
Because you know how like Google uploads, like they don't show you a percentage anymore.
Right.
There's a circle, and it actually doesn't move very much.
So got it right here. Download the video. Let's see
Those
what
are
we
stored on your
got. Oh,
Google
Archive.
Collab
This isn't my
space.
Google Collab actually. This is the Google Collab, and there's actually right at the top here it says cannot save changes. Is because this is the collab is what it is, but these are all temporary files that we can use during this collab session.
Well, it says it's got 111 gigs available.
Yeah, yeah. So it's got space. It's using 50 of 160. But the video itself.
They're probably using that 200 gig package. That's what I
Mhm.
have. Eventually, you need some Google space.
Oh yeah.
Google was smart to get into that, although they're overpriced. For what I pay for 200 gigs over there,
Hmm.
I can get 20 terabytes
Damn.
elsewhere. It's not the same interface, it doesn't have the Google convenience. It's not tied to my Gmail and all that shit, but at the same time, that's a plus to me, not a minus.
Hmm. Still having some issues with my mouse buttons this evening. Sorry, but the video is done and is not cooperating, but coming over to the screen momentarily. There. All right. So if we bring you, the other screen is larger too. So there we go. So we started from just nothing, right?
So how long did it end up? 33 seconds? That's it. Wow.
That's it.
So it really is like those are the keyframes. Now, if you actually wanted those, like I want this to be 4 minutes for my song,
Hmm.
you'd have to strategically
You can see there's
set.
very little going on though, which is the cool thing. Like once we started, like if we're gonna restart it again, and it's like from the very beginning, it gets to where the scene starts to get those guys, and
It's
then all you
it's
see is just little shimmering back and forth.
it's wild to see it as it shifts like that.
Hmm.
It's like I think that's a killer whale. It's not an eggplant. It's like a
Hmm.
killer whale came down and jumped into that snail's mouth.
And I'm seeing like different layers of or different levels of detail showing up and disappearing from that little boat in the bottom right corner.
Yeah, the guy's standing there in the little island. There is George Bush. You're
Yep.
right. Son of a bitch.
I was trying to see how the eggplant started too.
Was that junior or senior? It's almost like it became both of them at one point.
Yeah, early on it looks more like senior.
Well, it's like they're walking up. Like early on, they're
Hmm.
they're coming towards you,
And then they start turning. Now they're facing that way. Yeah, yeah.
and the killer
Oh,
whale's getting.
please. It is that big snail that's in the back holding the plum.
The plum,
Okay.
thank you. It is a
And,
plum.
originally I thought to the left was a seal, but now it's starting to look more like, I don't know, a horse mixed pony with something else. Oh, we got leopards. Look at it. We got sky leopards. And
Sky
they
leopards.
actually sky furry, fishy sky leopard type things. Because it's got like fins and stuff coming out of it.
Exactly.
Walrus, like, right? There's the walrus. Oh,
Yep.
geez. I think that's enough talking. Shh.
I think so too.
Yes. I hope everybody has had a great time. And thank you again for joining us on Talking Shhh I.T with Tony and Glenn. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Thanks everybody.
Bye,
We'll catch you next time.
everyone.
Night, everyone.
So you guys say goodnight again.
Good night again.
And good night one more time because I know I need my 3.
Oh, are you
Good
messing
night
with
again.
me? Okay, good night, Angie.